On this episode of FieldLink, we traveled to Garden City, Kansas to catch up with branch manager from Helena, Dan Pianalto, as growers prepare for their winter wheat fertility program by incorporating Resurge into their fertility program for 24. Plus, Kody Blochowitz, Helena product manager from Colorado, discusses valuable strategies on how strip-till growers in the High Plains are incorporating Resurge into their fertility program. We'll learn how this unique humic formulation has opened the doors to some new efficiencies that can only be delivered by Resurge. Plus, Jody Lawrence joins us from Nashville for the latest in the WASDE report, as well as how weather is impacting commodity prices. Stay tuned for this episode of FieldLink. And we're back at FieldLink, and joining us from Garden City, Kansas is Dan Pianalto. Dan, welcome to FieldLink.
Hi, Bill. How are you today?
Hey, good, man. How are things in southwest Kansas today?
Good. We got a little rain, and we're planting some wheat, and we really needed it, so things are well.
Good deal. Well, Dan, it's that time of year. Guys are starting to plant wheat, and fertilizer's starting to roll out, I'm sure. Dan, one of the things that we've talked to a lot of growers about is the incorporation of Resurge into their fertility program. How's Resurge been working for your guys in southwest Kansas?
Fantastic. We use a lot of the humic products, Hydrohume, and the guys really like to Resurge when we go to the planter applications.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Resurge. You mentioned Hydrohume. Basically, Hydrohume's been around 20, 25 years, had great results with that. But, a few years back, we introduced Resurge into the marketplace. Different formulation, more of a pelletized formula. A lot easier in handling is what a lot of growers and as well as dealers are telling us. What are your guys talking about in terms of that new formulation?
My growers, we like it. It's very low dust. It's the granular is very uniform. So when we make a planter application, it mixes well with our dry fertilizer, and we get a very uniform application and good results.
Good deal. So handling Resurge is a lot easier, a little more convenient. Are you guys, how are you applying Resurge today? Has it opened up the door for some different application methods?
Yeah, well, so we're mostly a liquid plant, but in our dry plant, we apply almost all of our dry through air seeders. And so that's how 100% of ours goes out is with air seeders. And it's really because the convenience, the uniformity, the low dust, the growers like it a lot more. And so we pretty much all the dry that goes out of our barn has Resurge in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. With this new formulation, it's really opened the door to the ear seeder market, and which is critical in the High Plains and wheat country. As you mentioned, a lot of your producers are utilizing that technology. What are some of the guys that, hands-on, that are really touching this product? What are their comments as it relates to handling Resurge?
Well, when we first started out, we had a dusty, not a very uniform product, and it didn't mix as well, but now it comes out in a really nice mix, and they don't have a lot of dust when they're filling the planters. The product, the uniformity with the planter is excellent, and we see the yield and the yield benefits, and then they see a lot of really good even emergence, and we really like the Resurge product.
Yeah, Dan, I think that's a great point too. Other than the convenience, which is really critical, especially in your marketplace with air spreaders, just the ability to have that uniformity spread across the field is pretty critical. And I'm assuming that a lot of growers in your market are starting to see some of the, financial benefits of reducing a little bit of their fertility input, but yet not compromising yield.
Exactly. And if we do, it has all the benefits of making the fertilizer more efficient. So we're combining more efficiency of the fertilizer with the placement of the fertilizer, and it works really well right there with the seed.
That's great. What are some of your producers? Do you have some experiences that you could share with us that some of your growers are experiencing with Resurge?
Well, right now it pretty much goes in every planter, but we saw some really good yield bumps. 15 bushels when we first went out with the product. We saw a place where we've left the planter off, and it's night and day. I've actually got some pictures, but of the emergency uniformity, more tillering, the plant got off to a quicker start and looked a lot better after it got 3 to 4 leaves and where the air seeder was off.
Excellent results there in Southwest Kansas. Do you expect to see acres continuing to grow this year as we take a look at 24 and growers starting to tighten things up a little bit?
I think we're pretty much everybody that's running dry puts the research in there, so our acres should be fairly consistent. Our wheat acres are maybe up a little, so we'll see a little more, but it's pretty much everybody doing it puts the research with it when they're running their seeder.
So certainly becoming a standard staple, a part of your program in the Garden City branch in Southwest Kansas.
Yes.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for joining us here today on FieldLink and sharing some of the experiences with growers as well as some of your employees in Southwest Kansas and how Resurge is impacting the wheat crop for 24.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, now we're going to move on to Kody. Kody Blochowitz. Kody is a product manager from Colorado, Helena product managers. Kody, welcome to FieldLink.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, you bet, Kody. We just had a good chat here with Dan. He's kind of bringing us up to speed a little bit about some of the experiences he's had in Southwest Kansas as it relates to Resurge in his marketplace. But you certainly work with Dan in Southwest Kansas, but you also cover the high plains throughout Nebraska and Colorado. What are some of your other customers experiencing as it relates to Resurge in your area?
Much similar experiences as Dan had spoke to. They absolutely just get along with it really well. They've ran humics in the past and always seem to have issues with it being kind of dirty. It likes to fracture a lot. So with Resurge, that kind of amends all that. The handling is improved. The dusting off is improved. They just get along with it really well.
Yeah, certainly with Resurge, handling is a really important piece. That new formulation and a pelletized formula, it's almost like a small BB in a lot of regards. But creating that consistency in terms of placement across the acre certainly is a benefit. But let's talk about the core of Resurge. We heard the term humics out there an awful lot, Kody. But can you tell us what the difference is from a humic standpoint as it relates to Resurge versus some other competitive products that might be out on the marketplace?
Sure, you bet. So much like Hydrohume, it originates with a 70% humic pure ore. Resurge then takes all the features and benefits of Hydrohume and actually manufactures it down to where it's a consistent size and shape, and it's designed to withstand that high impact environment that air seeders often bring to the table. So it's designed to go through these air seeders and brings all that 70% ore. So out of that 70% ore, we're gaining nitrogen use efficiencies by 15%. When things are getting tight, like it is now, everything you can get out of your nitrogen, the further it goes, the better. So.
You bet. And I think that's an important point. Really the chemistry of Resurge has been around a long time. Its cousin, if you will, is a product, Hydrohume, that's been in our market portfolio for 20, 25 years, and it's proven. It's got over millions of acres across the United States and really, frankly, around the world. So it's not anything necessarily new, but the process is new, the formulation is new, and the ability to apply this is quite a lot different than it was in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's definitely nothing new, but it is a new spin on an old idea. And just we have more and more air seeders these days. Therefore, the need for something that is able to withstand that hostile environment, the better. And we're starting to see a few more dry strip till machines out in the areas that I cover. And that definitely has a fit there as well.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that application, Kody, for those of us that are not quite familiar with dry strip application.
Yeah, so we do a lot of no-till or strip tilling in my geography. We can't afford the soil moisture by tearing things up and flipping the dirt over. So we do a lot of strip tilling, and so these dry strip tillers, basically, you're going in and you're banding your dry fertilizer down where the root zone is where it's needed in that root zone. It's much like a liquid strip tilling, but this incorporates the dry.
Okay, so in this case, we would be basically placing Resurge right into that targeted rich root zone. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's exactly like you would think of a strip till with a liquid machine, where sometimes you can dual place with liquid, but dry is a single placement, and it absolutely puts it down there about 6 inches to 8 inches deep, and right where those roots are going to need it. They'll come in and plant right down that same strip. And as that corn plant matures, it's got all the fertilizer there it's going to need.
So as that plant matures and expands its root zone, it's going to hit that 6-inch mark basically, and then boom, Resurge as well as some of the other fertility products are going to be surrounded around that zone. Is that correct? Correct.
That's exactly how that works.
So Kody, how long have some of your growers been utilizing Resurge in this format, and what kind of results are you seeing?
Oh gosh, it's been a slow adaptation, but we're kind of going whole hog with it now. Just about every single air seeder out there has got Resurge in the tank as well. We've done some testing with it, and the ROI is just too significant to overlook. Guys, once they use it, never seem to want to take it back out of the tank.
And simply because it's just so convenient and really effective. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely convenient. It's not an extra step. There's not an extra process or another pass. We blend it in with their dry fertilizer there at the plant. Half the guys forget it's even in there until they turn around and get the returns on it, and they're wondering why their yields are going up so much. We've kind of overworked our grounds over the last 100 years. We've really beat them up by turning soil and by doing some deep tillage and whatnot. So having a humic source in that band is absolutely needed.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. We in a lot of areas across the U.S. and really around the world, there's been times where we've inadvertently and unknowingly, kind of mined some soils, and this product, Resurge, is just a tool in their tool belt to reestablish some of that organic matter and rebuild that soil structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Organic matter is very hard to build up. So sometimes you just got to outsmart the soil and put what it needs where it needs it. That's exactly kind of what we're doing with Resurge.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit more about Resurge, from I guess, an organic standpoint. Where does Resurge actually originate from that humic source, and what makes it unique versus some other competitors that might be on the marketplace?
So Resurge, much like Hydrohume, it does originate from a mine down in Cuba, New Mexico. It is very arid down there. It is a 70% pure humic seam. And they are able to mine that. It's just pretty shallow, maybe 6-7 feet under the surface. They mine that. They're able to air dry that versus having to dry it with a mechanical means, which tends to cook the beneficials right out of the humate source. So by doing it naturally and in a more arid type scenario, we're able to hold all those beneficial aspects of the humic ore.
Wow. And I think that's really a critical point that often gets looked by a lot of producers. They tend to throw, it's a humic, and gets it. The word humic gets thrown into the same bucket, but not all humics are created equal.
Oh, absolutely. Most people don't even begin to think about where their humic source originates. So that's kind of one of our challenges has always been, okay, great, you're using a humic source. So we challenge growers to try to find or determine where that source is, and many of them don't even know.
Right, and it could come from all around the world, and to your point, some of these humic sources from different mines and different areas, they just have different effectiveness and efficiencies. And what we've done with Resurge is really tried to identify around the world the most efficient mine where we can grab the most efficient humic source available in an economical sense, of course, to American producers.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to think of where your source is and go back a couple hundred years and think of what used to be there. What kind of origin was it? Was it a heavily wooded area? Was it grasslands? The more heavily wooded areas, the shorter fulvic chains you get. So you get more benefits when you have a higher fulvic content than when you just have just a straight humic product.
Well, and I know there's a whole subset of science between humics, but the one thing we do know about Resurge is after the dust settles, so to speak, we know that mine is one of the best mines in the world, and it provides a very efficient product. We've got 20 plus years of history with that particular product, and growers from around the world are experiencing some of those benefits. Kody, when we think about products like Resurge and Hydrohume for that matter, they kind of can somewhat fall into that biological space. And it's funny, right now, biologicals is the hot buzzword in the marketplace, and everybody's all about biologicals. But when we step back and we take a look at the biological portfolio in Helena, we were biological before biological was cool, so to speak, with products like Hydrohume and now Resurge. Tell us a little bit about the depth and the importance of having a biosafe type product like Hydrohume, which is a humic, in your portfolio.
Sure. We've been playing the biological game before it was cool to have that word. Like you said, it's been around for 20 some plus years. So with that comes a lot of testing and a lot of results. We not only are current with having a biological, we're not just stepping up to the plate because it became popular and is kind of the big buzzword right now. It's tried and true. We've been doing it for a long time. Hydrohume and Resurge absolutely fit that biological profile. And like I said, we've been doing it a long time. So we pride ourselves on the amount of testing we've done with it. And we've got a pretty good track record with a pretty old product.
Yeah, I think that's really important to establish the confidence level out there. We're very confident in this product line. We've got, millions of acres really that have been treated with Hydrohume and now Resurge. And, as we evolve into a newer portfolio, Resurge and even Resurge Pro, which is specifically designed for our golf industry and sports turf market and lawn care, similar product, just a smaller type of product. But man, we're getting amazing results with that particular product. And golf course superintendents, farmers, no matter which formulation works for your farm or your turf market, it certainly is expressing some great results across the nation.
Yeah, absolutely. My experience with Resurge Pro is pretty limited. I have got to play with it a little bit, and it's pretty neat due to the fact that it's such a small granule. You can go spread that on your greens, and you can't even see it, so it doesn't even interfere with the game, with the play.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important, obviously, in the golf market and in the sports turf market. So that's what's neat about this product, Resurge and Resurge Pro. It has a lot of flexibility, a lot of convenience, and more importantly, effectiveness for the end user, making our products more fertilizer friendly and more efficient for sure. What kind of yields, are you guys seeing in your market, Kody? What kind of, results have you generally seen with Hydrohume or Resurge in your market?
So what we put on paper is around 11, 12 bushels. Of course, that'd be a game of averages. We have seen some in the 15 and even 20s. And those aren't just one-offs. We see those pretty consistently. And that's with anywhere from a 6-pound use rate up to 20. It depends on what we're trying to achieve. Whether we're trying to amend a soil altogether, then you tend to go up to that 20-pound use rate. But if we're just going to do Resurge as a maintenance, and they do it every single year, we tend to hold around that 10 pounds per acre range. Just blend it in with their fertilizer that they happen to be running anyways, and yeah, it's nothing but positive gains.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Yes, we're seeing some yield bumps here, but the other side of the story is, in a lot of regards, we're having, because of that efficiency factor, we're able to reduce maybe some of the nitrogen needs, the overall pounds on that farm in a lot of cases. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So we've actually had some testing done with the state of South Dakota, and we have one of the only products that is one of the only humic products that is labeled to be used in South Dakota. Of course, it has to be under a different name, but they have done quite a bit of extensive testing and have found that when using a quality humic product, you can gain an 85% nitrogen use efficiency. So you can actually back your nitrogen off by about 15% and have the same results as if you were running the full gamut of the nitrogen that you were running.
Yeah, that seems to be a kind of a somewhat of a standard. Obviously, we'd want every grower to talk to their Helena representative for what's working best for him or her in their marketplace. But yeah, there's some really great opportunities to reduce potentially some of the overall nitrogen impact on a per acre basis and play off this efficiency factor, which is really good for the environment and really good for the grower at the end of the day.
Yeah, and probably more important than worrying about backing off your nitrogen is just making sure you're getting all the use out of the nitrogen you are applying. That's probably bigger than actually just trying to cut cost.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Kody, because a lot of times we kind of immediately go to, save, and that is critically important. But, as a grower, we're already investing X dollars into our fertility program per acre. And what I'm hearing you say with Resurge is, Mr. Grower, you're investing X. Let's be sure you get 100% of X out of your investment versus 80, 85%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if a guy were to be putting out, say, 200 pounds of nitrogen an acre, and he's only getting 85% of that due to whatever form of denitrification or leaching or whatever, if we can improve that by 15%, that's like having 215, 220 pounds of nitrogen out there, which would be way better than just trying to go out there with 170 and making it back up to 200. So.
Yeah, you bet. Kody, as you take a look at 2024, we talked a little bit about the strip till side of things. Are there any other methods that you plan on, exploring with Resurge in the future, maybe some different crops or different systems?
Not really anything different as far as application. Anything that's going in a strip till, a dry strip till, or an air seed or something like that, absolutely, that's where we'd like to position Resurge. If guys are still going out and doing just a blowdown of dry and then incorporating it, Resurge definitely has a fit there. Hydrohume also is a great fit there as well. That's kind of what's available to you and what's in the barn is kind of how we play that game. But really, we take Resurge and position it to anything that's being banded and actually going in furrow or being incorporated.
Yeah, definitely a great opportunity to utilize Resurge to get that fertilizer efficiency, but also leveraging the ability to play off, the flexibility from an equipment standpoint, and giving you that ability to place that humic in a very specific spot at a very specific time on a wide range. So, Kody, want to thank you for joining us here today on this episode of FieldLink and bringing us up to speed on how you're positioning Resurge in the high plains of Colorado, western Nebraska, as well as Kansas. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the opportunity.
And welcome back to FieldLink. Joining us from Nashville's Jody Lawrence. We had a pretty big WASDE report come out last Friday. A lot of information there, some questions hanging out there around Russia, how that's going to impact the WASDE report. What did we learn?
Well, Bill, it's good to be back. I hope everybody had a good weekend. And yeah, unfortunately, the USDA put out that what was taken as a fairly bearish report, even though the numbers outside of the wheat number really were fairly neutral and within expectations, but had a nice rebound today. a lot of what appears to be in the market was everybody last Friday, into the week, into the month, into the quarter, and the looming government shutdown all contributed to the washout after the report. The report, the stocks were almost a little friendly in corn. But wheat was hit so hard they found an extra, almost an extra 500 or excuse me 50 million extra bushels of wheat in the stocks and from the production. So viewed as bearish, but then today you came back and beans were up a couple. Wheat regrouped and got back almost all of what it lost, and corn was up 10, and we're just right back at the top end of that 470 to 490 range in December corn. But the harvest progress numbers came out this afternoon, both of them pretty much in line at 23%. Beans maybe a little ahead of where they thought, corn right at about what was expected, a little bit ahead of average, but not, as much as I would have thought. I think you've got a lot of situations where, because of the low Mississippi River, basis has collapsed over the last 2 to 3 weeks, that farmers seeing a good open weather forecast and no real chance that winter sneaks up on us and does any damage to corn standing in the field. They're letting it dry naturally and taking their time about trying to figure out what to do with it, because the weather has been so unusually warm all the way into October now.
Yeah, definitely. We're here in 90s, 95 in Central Plains right now. Corn's certainly drying down, kind of a blessing in disguise, considering the alternative could be, right, Jody, in terms of energy cost to dry corn down, or soybeans for that matter. And taking things slow and steady right now is kind of a blessing.
Exactly. The weather has turned out at the end of the season to give everybody, buy them a little extra time that we don't get necessarily every season. So it's with the prices having fallen, it being able to avoid any extra dock because of wet corn or because of damage is helpful for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, still could use a little of that moisture to help out with some final test weights, but yet, boy, that fuel cost could really burn up a person's total net revenue with drying stuff down. Jody, we got some other reports coming up here in the near future. What else is on the horizon?
Well, since the government is not going to shut down, they signed the temporary funding bill until the middle of November. We will get the October and November reports, both fully researched. Some of last week's heartburn in the markets was, if the government did shut down, the October report would have been released, but only with data collected up until Saturday night, when the government was shut down. But thankfully, we will get a fully researched report that'll be a week from this Thursday, and they will update just about everything they can find, and the yield's going to be the biggest thing. What I'm hearing from everybody that's getting back in touch with me is, if you are in the eastern corn belt, you are seeing bean yields that are better than you expected. And in the areas that got plenty of timely rains, I've talked to several people that they have record per field yields on certain sections and certain plots of ground. So that's good to see, that even in an inconsistent year, that we've moved along with the technology, with the genetics, with the farm practices, the stewardship of the ground, and everybody on your team that helps contribute to getting everything, coaxing those bushels out of the acre, that we are getting some surprisingly good yields in beans, even in some of the drier areas. Now, that will all moderate with 77% of the harvest left, but it's good to hear that that the crop is at least stabilized, and the final yields, probably the October, are going to be somewhere around 172, and maybe the bean yield ticks below 50. but we'll just have to see what the USDA found out there.
Jody, certainly we've got some pretty good things happening here right now in terms of the market as it relates to weather and, the WASDE reports coming out. We've got some unknowns kind of identified. But what's the demand side looking like, Jody? What are you hearing across the nation and really around the world for demand for both corn as well as soybeans right now?
Cash markets have stabilized a little bit, and one of the positives that we saw today was that when the USDA released the report on Friday, all of Europe and Asia were already closed for the weekend. So when everything came back out today and looking around at the world cash prices did not go down like the U.S. futures did on Friday. And I think that was part of today's bounce. So that's good that there is enough demand at current levels that the market's not searching for demand. But from a world basis, we still are having an issue that Russia has plenty of wheat that they're willing to sell. Ukraine is finding ways to get their wheat exported, and they are undercutting everything simply to raise some money. And Brazil is not yet out of corn and beans from their record crop. So world demand is good, and at this point, it's pointing towards China. Just in the calendar year of 2023 is going to import a record amount of beans. So that looks good towards the future. The strong dollar is still a problem because of all the rate increases and the possibility of more. The government shutdown or not shut down rallied the dollar even more. So the dollar is still a negative impact on U.S. exports. But today in the inspection report, we are beginning to see slowly but surely a build back of weekly inspections, which means somebody's buying them and somebody's shipping them out. So I wouldn't say that it's red hot just yet, but it's certainly improved over the summer. We just need the dollar to break to. I think that would really be one of the straws that helps break the camel's back so that we can see the demand return to where we would like to see it.
Yeah, definitely. The demand certainly is there globally. People are certainly a lot of mouths to feed out there. That dollar, though, that's kind of catching us in a lot of regards. Jody, let's talk a little bit about logistics. Reports still coming in. The Mississippi River is, she's running dry. She's getting pretty low. What kind of impact do you think that'll, impact growers throughout the Corn Belt market as well as the Delta this year, as well as bringing fertilizer back up to those marketplace for fall application?
Yeah, this is going to become another logistics problem like we saw last year because there'll be lighter barges, more trips. If you have more trips, you have more transportation costs. You have crude back over 90 and diesel back over 330 in futures on the board. So we know that the extra transportation cost by the lighter load barges, because the low river level, becomes an issue, both getting corn out and supplies back. The basis is reflecting that, and it is it's crazy to think that the last 2 years, we go all the way back to 2012 since the Mississippi's been like this. So a lot of the U.S. is definitely needs a wet winter, whether it's a lot of snow or just some catch-up rains. But the river system is really having a negative impact on basis right now, simply because it's so expensive and with the small loads that are having to go down the river.
And definitely need to recharge that soil as well as those lakes and reservoirs out there across the graded fruited plains. Jody, any last thoughts as we wrap up this segment of FieldLink?
No, we're still into harvest. We're about a quarter of the way done, but I did get an email today from one of the crop insurance companies that I speak to regularly, and you've got a bunch of deadlines coming up on decisions to make for your crop insurance, what to pick for coverage, and some other things. So make sure you're paying attention to your deadlines on your crop insurance. Don't let anything sneak by you. And right now we're sitting at $1 below in corn from the February average and over $1 below in beans. And this month, October, will set that average. So today was the first day of trade. We'll keep an eye on everything just to see how those prices begin to affect and what kind of cash flow everybody can expect where they did fall below their APH to help smooth things out as we head into the end of the year.
All right. Well, Jody, you want to thank you for joining us from Nashville today. We look forward to hearing you from you next time here on FieldLink.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of FieldLink. Be sure to log in to helenaagra.com to learn more about Resurge, or contact your Helena representative to learn how Resurge can be a part of your fertility program in 2024.